everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm down at Carolina Auto Direct. We're going to take a look at their 2022 Chevrolet Camaro 1SS. So huge shout out to them for providing this muscle car for me today. Make sure you guys check out their website. They have a ton of awesome, pretty much brand new inventory, so definitely check them out. But the Camaro that you see behind me is finished off in Satin Steel Metallic with a list price just over $51,000. To start off today's review, let's look at what powers this Camaro. Underneath the hood is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 engine paired to the 10-speed automatic transmission. It pumps out 455 horsepower around 6,000 RPM and 455 pound-feet of torque around 4,400 RPM. That power is sent to the rear wheels. This weighs in right around 3,600 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, up to its top speed of 165 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 19 gallons. You'll expect the fuel economy to be 16 miles per gallon in the city and 24 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 110.7 inches. Its overall length is 188.3. It has a width of 74.7 and a height of 53.1 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for the Chevrolet Camaro, let's start off with the grills. Because this has two of them, there's one in the upper section that's very narrow and wide, and a larger one down below. Plenty of cutouts provide a lot of cooling to this engine, and it's really nice how the upper grille is pretty much sunken in, matches nicely with the headlights on both sides. You can see there's a little bit of a lip on the bumper just to give it that sunken in design. And this also has LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals. Now the turn signal has a really unique design. That strip actually protrudes its way into the grille, and there's even another section to the inside of the headlight, and then the DRL is down in the middle section of the bumper. So it's nice how that's split up. A lot of cool contoured lines running around that section too, leading on to more of the cutouts down in the lower section. And this does have a two-tone design with some of the black trim that you see against this exterior color just to tie it in nicely. And this even has functional air inlets on both sides just underneath the DRLs to provide even more aerodynamics. And then up top on the hood, this even has functional heat extraction vents. So you can get a look from the underside to be able to see straight through them. And then there's really nice lines running down both sides of that, leading to the top section just above the Chevy bow tie right in the middle to give it that classic Camaro design. And as we move on to the side, this has a really nice set of 20-inch wheels. They're 8.5 inches up front and 9.5 inches wide in the rear. Really nice 5-spoke design with the brushed finish. And this even has 4-piston Brembo brakes in all 4 corners. You'll notice the Camaro logo just behind that with the 3 different colors. We have the body colored side mirrors. This model even has a sunroof up top. All of the window trim is blacked out. There's really nice lines running down the side profile. You can see the indentions down in the lower section, as well as a line running right through the middle, just underneath that door handle. And then behind the door handle, it splits off to this massive rear fender, leading its way all the way to the rear. Really nice coupe-like design for this Camaro. And then in the back is the trunk-mounted spoiler, which is body colored, of course. This has a backup camera. It also has the 3D dimensional design to these taillights, which are LED, of course, gives it a unique look. In the lower diffuser, there's some nice trim pieces, as well as the quad-tip dual exhaust. SS is also over on that right side. And with the exterior wrapped up, let's move on to the rear cargo. Now you can use the button on the key fob or the button up underneath. Really convenient to have that, especially for a sports car like this. And the one drawback is the opening is slightly narrow compared to other competitors, but there's still a lot of space. And with the back seats folded down, that really opens it up. There's really no overhangs to give you a lot more interior storage if you need it. And then the trunk lid is very lightweight, so that makes it easy to close. And before we work our way to the inside, this does have remote start. So on the key fob, if I lock it and then hold on this button right in the middle, this will start right up. And we can hear that V8 come to life. We'll get some exhaust revs in just a little bit. You can shut it off from the key fob if needed. I'm gonna go ahead and unlock it, but obviously you can lock and unlock it from this door handle. And then on the door panel, it's covered in black leather with some gray stitching. Matches nicely with this trim piece running around all the window controls, as well as the side mirror adjustments. Lock and unlock and the release handle are up top. And then there's a little bit of storage space in the back section of the door, as well as the trunk release, very conveniently placed. Camaro is also spelled down on the door sill. And now let's work our way to the back seats. There's a tab on the top section of this backrest, and I already went ahead and moved this power seat forward just to give me a little bit more leg room. But at 5'10", I can work my way into these back seats. And you're not buying this vehicle for a full 4-seater, but as you can tell with the front seat set at my height, my knees are just up against the seat, and obviously my head is up against the headliner. If I had to be back here around town, it's definitely doable. So it's functional for adults, or you can use it for kids for extra storage space if needed. There's a little bit of storage right in the middle. You can place any smaller items. And then the back seats do fold down like I mentioned earlier. So this is one solid piece. You can fold it flat so you can get this perspective at the amount of interior storage that you do have. And we'll move on to these cloth seats. They have a great two-tone design with all the stitching running down them. Of course, all those adjustments are down on the side to move them. And then to work my way into these front seats, it is a low car, so it's easy to enter and exit. The door opens really wide too, so that makes it much more easy as well. And then moving on to the steering wheel, it's covered in perforated and solid leather with more of that stitching, flat bottom design to it with the SS badge. But let's fire this V8 back up with my foot on the brake. That button's over on the right side. Let's bring this back to life. And coming back to the gauge cluster, on the left side is the tach, on the right side is the miles per hour. There's fixed information running across the top like fuel and battery voltage and a few other vitals, as well as the compass. And then below that is an LCD screen. You can use these controls over on the right side to go through a lot more information. Currently it's showing miles per hour. If I scroll down, there's some trip information as well as your average fuel economy and speed. So you can monitor all of that as well as your range until empty. And there's a few other vitals that you can easily monitor like your oil, your TPMS. There's even a timer as well. If I scroll over once to the left, now you can pull up all this information to go through, go into the performance section here where you can look at a lot more vitals. So if you're driving this on the track, back roads, things like that, you can quickly monitor all of that information. You can also pull up the audio and navigation when you have that running, your phone when that is paired, and you can go into some options here, go into the launch control, other units, just to set this up the way that you'd like to. So it's not too configurable, but there's plenty of information to see front and center, and I really like the design for this tach. Just like the headlights and the grille, it's sunken in, giving it a really cool design, especially with this trim piece. Also over on the right side is Bluetooth and voice commands as well as volume. On the left side is favorites and cruise control, and this even has steering wheel mounted paddle shifters which are finished off in black. And then over on the left side there's some adjustments for the gauges as well as one air vent. And then working our way back to the 8-inch touchscreen system, there's a lot of info to go through. On the bottom are all presets. So we have a shortcut to home, as well as music, phone, navigation, and the climates. And with it on the home screen right now, you can see all these icons like audio settings, even Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If I swipe over to the split screen, you can look at your music as well as your phone when that is paired. And then one last screen here has climates as well as Spotify, My Chevrolet. So you can go through all of these apps just depending on what you need to use. And there's even a few physical buttons below that. You have a shortcut to that home and back, as well as power and volume and tuning right in the middle. And I like how the screen has a bit of an angle to it. So even on a bright day like today, it will hide the screen from the sun, so that way there is no glare. The low roof line also helps with that, so it's a really nice touch. And then working our way below that are all the physical buttons for the climate. So if you don't want to use them in that upper screen, they're nicely laid out with where you'd like the air to go, on off right in the middle, front and rear defrosters, of course AC. And then what's really cool is both of these air vents are multifunctional. The one on the left will adjust the temperature, and there's a small screen there that will show you the temperature as well as the upper screen. On the right side is the fan speed. It will also show you that level over on that right screen. Really nice to see those incorporated into the actual AC vent. You can turn them on and off just by twisting this dial. The hazards are just underneath that. And then moving on to the shifter, the release is in the front. If I put it into reverse, the backup camera will appear with the guidelines. You can turn those on and off just depending on if you'd like to see them. And then putting it all the way back into drive and popping it over into the manual setting allows you to shift using this or the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. It's also finished off in perforated leather with Camaro on the upper section and some brushed aluminum. Just behind that is traction control as well as the different driving modes. So just by using that toggle, you can go between touring, sport, track, snow, and ice. So again, just depending on how you'd like to drive this, you can quickly set that up. There's the electronic parking brake along with a 12 volt. 2 cup holders are right next to the center armrest. And when you open this up, there's a good amount of space, including 2 USBs and an auxiliary. So you can charge electronics in there or run the cables out either way. And then over on the passenger side is plenty of room for all the information that needs to go into that glove box. And we'll take one last look at these seats. They have a great design for being cloth. There's even more leather on the airbag cover there. And like I mentioned earlier, we have the sunroof with the manual adjusting sunshade. Those controls to open it up are up top, as well as the dome lights on both sides and all the OnStar and emergency controls. All right, so getting behind the wheel of this 2022 Chevrolet Camaro, let's go ahead and start off with the performance. Let's put it into the manual setting, downshift a couple gears. And just a mild acceleration. This sounds really good. Surprisingly, the paddles are pretty responsive. And this definitely handles well for the speeds I'm going today. Now, my initial impressions of these paddles, they are pretty thin. I wasn't sure how they were going to feel, but I like them. If you want to use them in your automatic, you have the option to do that, and they seem very responsive like I mentioned. Now, you can also opt for a 6-speed manual. So if you're a 3-pedal kind of person, you can get the manual. If that's not your thing, you can get the automatic. You can still have fun with it, just depending on your driving preference. But this is a really cool vehicle. I love driving Camaros because they offer a lot. There are so many different trim levels that you can get with the Camaro just based on your budget. This is definitely a cool muscle car of the options that are available. And then the next thing that I want to talk about is visibility real quick. I love being behind the wheel because like I mentioned earlier, the roofline is very low. I can see all of these bulges in the hood, and then combined with the bulges on the top of this gauge cluster, it really gives you that sports car feel from the driver's seat. And then a glance over my right shoulder with visibility, going back to that pillar in the back. Yes, it's bulky, but you can see around it. I can use my side mirror there. I can look out of that window, look out of the back window too. I can see over my left shoulder, even look out of that window in the back. And the reason that I mention this again is because we do a lot of Camaro reviews, and a lot of people tell us that the visibility is poor. Yes, it's a sports car, it has bulky pillars. The visibility is not like a pickup truck where it's windows all around, but it is easy to see around. Once you learn the car, start driving it a little bit more. As I mentioned, I have an R8 with visibility worse than this. So to me, this isn't bad at all. You get used to it the more you drive it. And then just as far as being in the 1SS, we have a really nice interior. There is some plastic, it's on the dash here, but it has a great look to it with some of the leather that kind of ties in with that plastic to give it more of a nicer interior. We have the trim pieces that surround the doors, really nice cloth seats too. So we have to give it another acceleration to hear that V8. And just half throttle, we're up to speed. This would definitely be fun to rip on it more in the mountains, back roads, even doing some track driving, use the launch control. It's a great sports car option for sure. I love all of the tech that we have. And now switching over to the POV angle. Even just a mild acceleration up to speed. It's quick. Paddles are responsive like I mentioned, and you can get a look from this angle how this interior is, especially with these notches, the bulges in the hood. Gives it a really nice sports car feel. And we are up into 10th gear there, cruising. For having 10 gears, it doesn't really feel like it has 10 gears. The car seems to allow you to ring out a gear. Now, I only went to around 4,000 RPM. Since this is not my car, I'm not going to redline it. However, with that being said, you can still utilize every gear. So while there's 10, it doesn't feel like an overkill of gears. And up into 10th gear at the moment, we're cruising around 60 miles an hour at around 1,300 RPM. So it's going to keep the RPM low just to help you save on MPG. So it's nice to see that for a sports car. You still have some technology features like that with all the overdrive gears. And then when you're ready, you can drop it down several gears and have some fun with it. And we'll do one last acceleration for today's video. just in normal automatic mode. Shifts great, and those pops sound really good too. But that's gonna wrap it up for my walk around review and test drive, getting behind the wheel of this 2022 Chevrolet Camaro 1SS. Once again, huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this vehicle for me today. Check out their website, that info is down in the description. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.